Hey Matt. Hey Nora. How you doing?
Hey
How's it
Bill,
going?
good. How are you?
Good. Looking forward to having a chat today about exoskeletons and travel. So, how do you travel with an exoskeleton?
It's a great question. I can barely travel with the baggage that I have, let alone thought of having an exoskeleton when I'm traveling. So I'm interested to have this conversation today.
Okay, trigger this off then, as I like to in every podcast. Um, so we obviously had this good discussion a little bit earlier in the week of like how could we do this? So I had a look, and not easy is the answer,
Mm,
not straightforward, and it seems like a terminology minefield all over the place. But I think if we start off on the earlier stages of batteries.
right.
The batteries are a huge deal. Batteries can be a really huge deal, and the idea of that, from what I've seen, some aircrafts will insist that you power down, and then that if you're
Mhm.
paraplegic, for example, you're in a wheelchair and you're pushed, and you've been led to the aircraft that way. Some countries, such as the US, for example, they are really accommodating for it, and they're, I would say, quite advanced in seeing that.
Right.
So some states they'll ask you to, if you are privileged to afford one, they'll ask you to power down once in position. But
Mm,
again, these are some of the things I've read so far.
right.
And
Yeah.
I think a complicated aspect is where are you, right? Which Matt just brought up. What country are you in? And if you're in the United States, what state are you in? And what airline are you flying?
Right. Right.
Because they're all different.
Yeah, the like in the US, if you're flying with any kind of assistive device for a disability, you can sort of rely on the Air Carrier Access Act, which says basically, a high level view of you can take your device all the way to the airplane, and then you have to gate check it there or check it right there at the airplane entrance, and then you get it when you get on the other side of wherever your airplane's going. And I would say we're mainly talking about air travel here, but there's
Oh yeah.
also bus, train, boat.
Mhm.
There's other forms of travel where an exo could pose some challenges as far as just the regulations, right?
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah. I mean, I know it's a tangent to this, but you think of the military, for example. They for years talked about trying to come up with a way to have the dismounted soldier, which
Right.
is somebody wearing this so they could get in
Mhm.
the vehicle and get out the vehicle. And it seems such an easy task,
You're right.
but you kind of go, that's like saying, "I'll just hit go and it will be fine." It just really isn't.
Well, and then we
Well,
saw
and
we, we saw it firsthand. I mean, all three of us saw this firsthand.
Mhm.
It's like when we ran one of the exo games, that was actually one of the tests: getting in and getting out of a vehicle with an exo on, right? Because it's
Right,
not as
right.
easy as people make it out to be.
Well, and I feel like in this aspect, you have two different challenges that are facing you, right? You have the first challenge, which is getting through security.
Right.
And then once you get through security, you have the challenge of the actual aircraft itself.
Right.
Mhm.
Can you bring it with you? If you can, does it go under your seat? Does it go above a head storage? Did you have to check it? All of this comes into consideration. So it's not as simple as just one challenge that you have to tackle, it's two.
Right. Right.
I am loading these questions up, by the way. Um, just saying. So, so if it's down to the aircraft and it's down to wherever you are flying, what's stopping it? What's the difference? I don't get it.
Yeah, but it also depends on what kind of exo too. It's like it's even more complicated than that. So if you have a passive exo, there's no power per se in anything, versus an exo that has some sort of power, some sort of battery, probably a lithium battery. That makes it a
Mhm.
bit more complicated because now it's not just the exo; it could be the regulations around the battery you have too, right? I mean, you were telling me that, Matt.
That's right. So from what I'd seen, everybody has a different version, and I think it's just because, let's be completely frank, of that batteries are so unpredictable.
Right.
Having a solid way of dealing with the battery is kind of like the Ark of the Covenant. We're sure it's there, but where it is, who knows? Maybe we'll find it one day.
Right.
The So TSA, they deal with it one way. The CAA, the UK, they deal with it differently as well. So, for example, and I'm making this scenario up. So I'm just spelling out, this is just me making this scenario up.
Hypothetical, as we say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hypothetical. So we're getting on. So let's say I get on the aircraft with my powered exoskeleton. TSA are like, you know what? That's perfectly fine. You followed procedure. Then I land in the UK. Now, as I land in the UK, they may not like the power level that's actually in that exoskeleton,
Oh.
and me as a person, then coming out, I can get on the plane using TSA's procedure, but getting off the plane becomes then challenging because I'm now in a new area of legislational aspect.
Mm.
And I'm gonna bring up one word, I'm gonna bring up one sentence, which I like to bring up an awful lot. It's really down to exactly what is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And their standard operating procedures of each aircraft is probably going to be a bit different depending on the size of the aircraft and who you're flying, right? So let's say, for example, in that situation, you're flying from the United States to the UK. You could be flying Air Canada that goes to Dublin, and then from Dublin, you could be flying British Airlines.
And we all
Exactly.
love
And
flying through Dublin.
well, yes, don't we?
It is a nice airport.
It is. It's a great airport. But it seems that since it's not regulated or it's not standardized, you are going to have different standard operating procedures based on where you are and who you're flying with.
Yeah, and I would say, it does. Both those things are absolutely true. But like, I'm going to agree somewhat with Matt here. Is it gets down to the question is a little bit more than just what is it? What is it considered? Is it
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
if I
yeah, yeah.
say if it's I say here in the U.S. this is an assistive device, but it's not considered an assistive device once I hit the UK or wherever I may be
Mhm.
going. Now
Exactly.
I've had this one. I knew what the regs were under this regime, but now it's considered some other. It's considered a machine over here in the UK or EU, and now I have to look at different regs. That could drive me crazy, right?
Yes, and sometimes if you're utilizing it for rehabilitation, you're going to have a doctor's note, right, that indicates that you need this as part of your rehabilitation. Whereas if you're traveling with it to utilize it more in a consumer standpoint,
Sure,
you're not going to have that doctor's note, right? It's
right.
going to be a carry-on to a degree. So, understanding what it is and how it is defined is really, really important. What is it?
Yeah. I mean, I know I've taken a lot of trips for vacation and other reasons where I end up walking a lot where I'm going.
Mhm.
And maybe I've chosen to bring an EXO with me because, hey, I'm going to walk maybe 5, maybe 10 miles a day because I'm gonna go see everything. I'm gonna walk
Right.
around. I'm gonna walk around London, or I'm going to Rome. I'm gonna see everything. I'm gonna see the Forum, the Pantheon, you name it. I'm going everywhere. That's a lot of walking, and I'm like, nope. I'm bringing my EXO with me. I'm hitting everything today, but maybe there's a problem with the regs that I don't expect. And that's the kind of things like how do you plan for that? Where do you start?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I won't keep banging the drum for this much longer, but one area where I'll say one area of the world where batteries can be manufactured and other elements can be manufactured can be very, very strict
Right.
on procedural approach. So I'd read that when entering their airspace and actually getting off a passenger airliner, they can be so particular that even your lithium ion batteries won't even get past their
Wow.
security checks. They would pull them, and you
Wow.
go, that's crazy. But and if you've got somebody who's really dependent on it, but it really throws onto the other side of this is what if you have a robotic prosthesis?
Oh wow. Okay. Now we're getting
Mhm.
into for sure medical devices. So
Right.
clearly, in that case, you'd want to plan and make sure there's nothing that's going to cause a problem. But you got to have some sort of medical documentation, and clearly you can see whether something's a prosthesis or not. So, but like you said, it's not just a hook. Like you're not like Captain Hook here. This is actually
Yeah,
could be
yeah,
a
we're
fully
talking.
functional robotic arm.
Yeah,
Right.
because don't forget, they're not targeting the aspect of not knowing what this device is.
Right.
They're targeting that it's a powered piece,
Right.
and this is outside of the fact of what the device is even seen as. What it's
That's
actually
true.
known as.
Mhm.
So it just shows that there's still that unknown area. So I mean, as you guys know, we've been developing battery standards to do with all over the world at the minute,
Right.
looking at oxygen environments. So you just kind of go, it just shows that until we get a nice clear definition, it's really not straightforward.
Well, and it also kind of begs for uh, some answers from the market. Like one of the answers from the market from a battery perspective is like, okay, I find out I can't use my battery somewhere I'm going, but I should be able to get a battery that is compatible and
Right.
and meets the regulations of that place that I can stick into my device, whatever it is, exo, prosthesis, whatever. Same thing for the consumer location. Maybe I don't need to bring my exo with me. Maybe like when you go to the beach, was almost everybody do. Most people when they go to a beach, especially for vacation, they'll end up renting a bike. I
Yes.
should be able to rent an exo when I go to Rome or any place where you're going to walk around a lot, right? If that's something I want to do. And that market's just not there yet that I've seen.
Okay, so I even have more things on this one.
Uh-oh.
Because yeah, when we're talking about traveling, I was thinking about so recently I went away, and we were in Geneva, and it got me to thinking, seeing people walking around, and we were hiring bikes, so there was electric bicycles,
Right?
and seeing these electric bikes, it got me to thinking the same principle.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know this answer, but I suspect that it will be something because an Exo is wearable.
Yes.
If somebody puts it on wrong and they're injured,
Oh, well, I mean, hold on. I'd say, I don't know the laws in a lot of places, but in the US, you get injured on your bicycle you rented at the beach. That's kind of on you unless there is something that the maintainer of the bicycle or the manufacturer did that would cause some liability there. But I don't know, that may be different in EU and other places, but here in the US, because I've had someone close to me have exactly that happen to them, where they
Mhm.
crashed and burned on a bike really hard.
really.
Yes,
Yeah. A lot of the times when you rent those bicycles in those areas as well, it's through an app. You scan the QR code,
yeah,
and as part of like checking off, you
it's
take
got
on the
yeah,
risk,
yeah,
which I feel that would be appropriate if the situation arose to do that with exoskeletons. But that comes back to another topic of fit,
sure, yeah. Well, it's
which
same thing with bikes. You get a
is a
bike too
nightmare.
big or too small, it's not going
Right.
to fit. You're not
Right.
going to do well. But yes, even
Yeah.
more so with the exos. You're right.
So I have a general question for you both
Uh
because
oh.
you're very accustomed to trying on different types of exoskeletons, and it comes back to the topic of traveling.
Yeah.
Would you travel in an exoskeleton? Now, neither of you are paraplegic or amputees, or so it would be of your own free decision to
Right.
fly
Right.
with an exoskeleton on. Would you wear an exoskeleton? Would you make that choice to go through this
Well, I
right? To
mean,
go through it.
there's a lot of variables to that. It's like, well, if if I'm flying in a private jet somewhere,
Right.
I'll take on a lot of
Okay.
stuff. Whatever do you want
You're
me to wear?
you're on a commercial airplane that's going from Charleston to Philadelphia.
Okay, well, yeah. I would wear it if I needed it. It's one of those things like, okay, uh, what is the purpose of an exoskeleton? So, same thing as like, hey, if I had, say, if I had one of those, what do you call those things? Those little, they're they're basically, I think they're called scooters. You know, the skateboards with the
Oh,
sticks.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
skateboards with a stick, you know, a little handle on them,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
most of them are electric now and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I could get around a lot
So
faster,
dangerous.
you know, in Philadelphia with this thing, but do I need to, carry it on the plane with me, or can I just get one there? Now, right
Mhm.
now, I probably couldn't fly to Philadelphia and get an EXO and use it, but do I really need it? And that would be kind of my decision point. What do you think,
Mhm.
Matt?
I mean, it's a gold question. Absolutely gold. If I'm absolutely honest, no, probably not. And it's only just because of I'm going to get myself in trouble with
You're
this
gonna
one.
get in trouble. You're gonna get banned, I'm sure.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to get myself in trouble. It's it's because of the aircraft.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, my shoulder across shoulder to shoulder. Last
Mhm.
time I was on, in fact, when I was traveling with my other half to Geneva, we were kind of like, "How's it going? How are you?" You know, you kind of go, did they look and go, you know what? I'm sure we could fit two more people in a spot where one person could fit.
So you're
And
saying you were so far back in the airplane you were next to the goats? Is that what you're saying, Matt?
Nah.
yeah, but yeah, my point is the aircraft itself is too constricted.
Yeah.
If I was in a position where I needed that XL, I would obviously be going for a disabled spot on the aircraft.
Mhm.
However, even when you look at the disabled spot on the aircraft, I would challenge that the aircraft companies even have enough space to be able to accommodate for such a thing.
Well, yeah, and that's been a complaint for a long time, which is, and it kind of goes into, especially around aircraft, is this idea of passenger rights. Do you have a
Mhm.
right to a certain size seat? And what
Right.
what is the right size of seat to accommodate? And we talk about this with fitting exos, fitting a 95% of the population kind of thing. You can't size a seat for the extreme kind of thing. So you have to do it around some reasonable kind of method there. But yeah, it does seem a bit snug these days
Hmm.
in these seats, and so I think
So,
that's a valid complaint. And then, here's the other thing. So one of the things with the if you have a disability and you're in a wheelchair, that kind of disability, and if you look at the Air Access Act, basically. One of the other things is so you have to give up your wheelchair or your mobility device when you get on
Mhm.
the airplane. They check it. If you need to go to the bathroom, the flight attendants have to, help you get there and back because you don't have your normal mobility device anymore. You know, how does that play in with like, well, I don't have a disability, but I do use my exo quite a bit.
Yeah, you have mobility
Right.
I mean,
issues potentially,
Yeah.
right?
the other side of this, there is an exciting element to all this of what we're discussing here. Of that, don't get me wrong. Right now, do I think that they'll fit on the aircraft and allow for people with mobility? No, definitely not. I think there's modifications that need to be made.
Probably.
However, it does show that moving forwards into a position where some of the exoskeletons are really going to allow people with very bad mobility to be able to be
Mhm.
mobile on the aircraft. It's so exciting as a concept to be able
Right.
to do.
Yeah. Well, I think about the situation at the airports that they have right now, right? They have the runners with the wheelchairs
Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
accessibility for those that have trouble with mobility. And you know, to some degree, you would think that the aircrafts could take advantage of what an exoskeleton can offer because it may be one of those situations where the wheelchair goes as far as the door to the plane
Right.
and then the user is transferred into an exoskeleton to help them get down the aisle of the plane to sit down, right?
Right.
We've done sit to stand before as well as part
Exactly.
of the exo games.
That's right. That's right.
So it almost seems like it could be a game changer for actually helping the airlines. But again, I have to come back to Matt's point of would you wear an exoskeleton on the airplane? And from the travel that I've just been on, I couldn't imagine it, especially depending on what type of exo you're wearing. I mean,
Right.
if you're wearing an upper body, shoulder, back, there's no room.
No.
Not happening.
If it's an ankle exo, you might have a little bit more, area with that, but the accessibility is just it doesn't seem to be there, and the aircraft seems smaller.
Yeah. Well, and I could think of a case where I would do it. And again, it kind of falls back into this almost disability area, but it's really just a regular mobility area.
Mhm,
This happens to a lot of people. I've known a lot of people, family members and stuff, to have this problem, which is their knees. And
mhm.
their
Oh,
knees
yeah.
hurt, and they sometimes have issues with, getting up once they sit down. But the bigger one tends to be is stairs. And
Mhm.
wheelchair doesn't fix stairs.
No,
So,
no.
and not every place has wheelchair access. So,
Mhm,
that would be, if it was let's not even call it an exo, it was a powered knee brace. That's
mhm,
something that might be. I know Matt's like, "What? You're going to throw a new name out there?" If it's something like that, that's the type of device where I could say, yeah, that'd be worth traveling with to deal with stairs around the airport, when you're walking around, going places, all of those things, especially in areas like I lived over for a little bit over in Italy. There are a lot of places in Italy that you really
mhm.
need to be able to walk upstairs,
Oh,
up and
yeah.
down stairs. So that's the type of stuff I would see as making it kind of worthwhile to go through all the security stuff for travel.
I
Right.
mean, one thing I would say that I think airports could really, really cash in on is the idea of, if think of it as renter lower passive exoskeletons for seating.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Kind of thing, if you could say, if you're at the airport and you're like, my back is killing me, I have nowhere to sit, you
Oh
could
yeah.
just rent yourself a passive exo, and it's a chair you're wearing, and you go, I would do that, because the amount you know what it's like when you got millions of bags on, you go, I just
mhm.
beat me up.
Right. And some people just, especially I would say in American culture, not in all cultures, but in American culture, people are very hesitant just to sit on the floor.
Yes.
And that's something that would, and some people have trouble once they get all the way to the floor getting back up.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a real issue.
I mean, the aspect of that element, I think would really help. I
Yeah.
do think would really help. But I mean, as far as traveling there, yeah, it's not something that I would do on an aircraft. 100%, not at the moment, anyway.
So it sounds like if you're traveling with an exoskeleton, you really have to take a look at battery size.
Yeah.
Depending on battery size depends on whether or not you can do carry on or you're looking at putting it under the aircraft.
Yep.
Correct.
I would say so too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's it's
correct.
Very interesting.
it's something I think it adds a portion, it adds a bit more planning that has to be done with your trip.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would say with an EXO right now. Is it's something you need to plan on. You need to do a little bit. You may want to even if people do this who are in wheelchairs. It's like they reach out to the airline, let them know, hey,
Mhm. Oh yeah.
this is going on. I'm going to need some help with some of this. I would say with the
Mhm.
EXO, you wouldn't want to do that right now too, just to kind of clear the way before you get there.
It would be interesting in the future if when you're doing your obviously when you're checking in online, right, it
Yeah.
tells you what you can and cannot have as part of your baggage and you
Right.
accept. At some point it would be nice if there was part of that check-in process that asks you whether or not you have a brace or an orthosis or an exoskeleton so that it already notifies the airline to be prepared for that type
Right.
of of item coming through.
Right. Yeah, and like there may be, I don't know of, I can't think of any off the top of the head that kind of use this type of mechanism, but there may be, which is
Mhm.
if you had an EXO that had pneumatic components, specialized
Mhm.
especially something that had like compressed air, some form of
Right.
air in it. Those might be a bit of a challenge going onto an airplane and stuff like that, because that could fall under some of the regulations about having compressed air canisters
Yeah.
flying and stuff. So, but I don't know, I don't know anybody that's using that technology right now in exos, but that's, everything right now is more materials and battery type stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, don't forget when the other thing that's when it's batteries, it becomes for oxidization. It becomes
Mhm.
for the possibility of them spontaneously bursting into flames for any types of heating. You know,
It
it's like
doesn't happen all the time, Matt. Don't act
it's
like
like
this is every day.
um, but no, 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 and but it's funny when you read some of the regulations, it's written like as if it's a 50-50 chance when it's really not.
No.
Like
Well,
you said, I think when I'd look, I think it was one in every 100 billion possible combinations can have a fracture, and that doesn't mean it's burst into flames.
right. Well, and the
It
other thing is
just
like
don't.
people, as far as regulations go, to be very fair, at best, most regulations are probably 5 years behind any kind of
Mhm.
technology that's out right now. Many times they're probably a decade or more behind the technology that's current out right now, because it can take years to develop a regulation and actually get it passed, especially in the US. I would imagine it's the same in the EU and UK. It takes a while to
Yeah.
get a
Oh,
regulation through.
goodness, yeah. Yeah, all the time.
So, if you have technology like Exos that's moving rapidly forward, the regulations have certainly have not caught up to that. There's just no way.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully in the future, the regulations do catch up to that, along with the airline designs and the airplane designs.
Well, they are working on making supersonic jets again for commercial
Mhm.
travel. Uh,
Okay.
One of the issues with the French design was that it was very loud. The Concorde. You guys
Mhm.
maybe are old enough to remember that, but it was very loud. It was expensive, but it was mostly
It's loud.
loud and all the issues with that. So they're working on supersonic jets that are not loud and
Mhm.
and and be and they it can also be commercially viable. So that changes, the time frame that you would be in an airplane. The
Mhm.
other thing is, at some point somebody's going to figure out a better way to travel by boat.
Okay, and then we've just hit a bit of a snag.
Uh-oh, what?
So, one of the said countries who manufactures their batteries, their lithium-ion batteries,
Yeah,
the reason they get very nervous about lithium-ion batteries in the area where where the passengers are, is the pressurization of that battery.
sure.
Mm.
Supersonic jets have to run at a slightly different pressurization just to stabilize your ability to be able to move. So it could possibly make it less stable.
Okay, okay.
No supersonic jets and exos.
No.
No supersonic
No,
exos.
now, hold on. You know that we're going to figure this out, because here's the thing. There's going to be business travel. The minute you have supersonic jets, you're going to have business travel,
Oh yeah.
and people in their flying business are going to have their laptops and all their other wearable watches and all that other stuff with them, which will have lithium batteries in them, unless we get to the sodium batteries and other types of technology.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not there yet.
That's
Uh,
another podcast.
yeah, that's a whole nother podcast, battery podcast. But,
Yeah, it is.
we're going to have to figure that out, because, again, that goes to what is the commercial viability of the supersonic jet? If you cannot make it viable for someone to travel with a laptop, you do not have a viable airplane, no matter how fast it goes.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, obviously your XO batteries are far greater. They're huge in
Well, yeah,
comparison
some
to
of
your,
them can be
you know.
substantial.
But if
Mhm.
that pressurization is a question, then that's very true. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very. I don't. I mean, I'll be honest. When it comes to this and battery tech, I'm very much a novice personally. I don't know enough about it because it's an art in itself, from what I understand.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I got to think somebody's figured this out because, here we have military jets all the time over here in the US. You guys have military jets. I mean, I know some military jets have a cargo pod that goes underneath the wings,
Yeah.
or that just happens to be about the size, fit golf clubs in a bag or two. So,
Just a
so
little bit.
yeah. So if the military jets are flying this type of stuff, and I imagine somebody has put a laptop or some sort of lithium battery product in there, and I imagine somebody has gone supersonic in a military aircraft with something. How is that? How is it a problem?
I actually have an answer for that one as
Oh
well,
boy,
just
here
because
we
of
go.
some of the stuff that we've done. The way that the military aircraft is designed for ability for G forces and the
Right,
pressurized suits that they wear, the actual cabin itself is a lot different in compared to what's in a commercial. So you've got your breathing apparatus, you've got
right.
the flight suit, you've got a lot more. You've got a lot more kit on you to allow you to do these maneuvers.
Mhm.
So the actual environment of the cockpit is different. We did work years ago with BA Systems, and they took us through that, which is fascinating area. But yeah, that's the only reason why I know that one.
So it is possible, but there's going to have to be
Must
some
be.
work. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fair.
Maybe there's some nice little cover, specific cover for your laptop.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, you raise a great question though. Of that, if the pressurization is such a big issue, why don't you take your battery out of of your laptop?
Right.
Why are you
Right.
allowed to use it? It is a great point.
I mean, it's it's like a lot of things. Like, okay, you have all these rules, but we're going to make this exception, which makes no sense. It's like, okay.
There must have been some sort of testing and standardization that went into that.
Yeah, well, and that is the key right now is to have some standards that we can apply across a lot of these countries that we
Right.
can utilize. That's what it ultimately boils down to, really.
Yes.
I'm just saying, you guys, I'm cheating as I go. So the laptop is designed. If it fails, it's designed with an internal chassis, kind of like like on your vehicle, it has a crumple chassis. There's a
Yeah,
Hmm.
failure point. The laptop is designed with two layers of, of chassis frames on it. You have your external. The most highly praised laptop is the Apple chassis design,
yeah,
where you've got the external frame, you've got the internal frame, and the idea is that if there is a fire, what it should do is be self-contained, and it just, well, I mean, I've had it before, when they just basically flop.
yeah,
Right.
So they've been designed to fail. So that's quite nice though, because it just shows that if you're going to do that with an EXO,
yeah.
you design
Hmm.
a pocket to fail.
Yes,
Yes.
I would argue that that's exactly a great place to start.
Hmm.
Having exos with similar kind of design requirements. The next kind of consideration is the big difference between the laptop and the exo is the laptop doesn't have to take in consideration that it may be next to your skin.
Oh yeah.
That is the bigger consideration. Fine, we'll design it where it fails gracefully, all that kind of stuff with the battery, but you have to consider if this battery is right next to someone's skin because they're wearing it. Then we have to think of a couple other precautions. That would be where I would go with that. But I think it's like you said, from an engineering standpoint, I think it's doable to engineer that.
I
Hmm.
totally agree. I think it's a design feature which I will bet you any money in time we'll see that emerging, just because people will want to be able to move in aircraft and some such. Anyway,
Yeah. Well, and
so
it's all about mobility. That's what all this is.
Right. Right.
I do have an extra question.
Okay.
So, if you're talking about just traveling with with an EXO, are you electric bike or are you EXO on a bike?
Ooh. Okay. Why? Hmm. Different purposes there. I don't know if the Exo is going to help me necessarily with the bike, but I don't know if the Exo is going to get my way on the bike. I would be more worried about the Exo getting in the way on the bike than I need the Exo to help me use the bike. Now the Exo is going to give me more, in my mind, it's going to give me more access for mobility. And I mean access by more access to terrain. I'm not going to ride up steps on a bike, even though there may be some people out there who could do that. Uh,
Yeah, there's
so, uh,
plenty of them.
you know, the Exo is going to give me access to what I would call more unstructured environments. The bike is going to give me additional speed, but I have to keep the bike in a pretty structured environment, at least fairly smooth type environment to use it. It's all depending on where you want to go and what you want to see.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the degree as to what and how you need the XO.
Right.
If I need the XO to ride it, then of course I'm gonna wear it. But if it's a situation where it's just an extra add-on, I don't know that I would necessarily choose to use it unless there is a reason, like different types of terrain that or hills that I'm gonna be addressing that would make it helpful.
Right.
So then I have a scenario for you.
Of
Um,
course.
it's you know how it is. Um, so I was in a discussion recently with someone and they were talking about bikes. They love bikes.
Yeah.
Now, how do you define you need an EXO?
Right.
It's
It's a
personal. It's a
Yeah.
personal preference, it's a personal choice.
it's a personal choice, isn't it? Really, it's a personal
Right.
thing of
If
what
it's
you want
if
to
it's
do.
not if it's not a medical issue, if it's not
Right.
a medical device, then like Nora says, it's a personal choice. The only I mean, there's the third option is it's a mandated device. So you could
Yeah.
get in a work type system, a job type situation where somebody has said, and this has happened in the past, somebody said, this is personal protective equipment, and now you're mandated to wear it for this job. But that's not really what we're talking about here.
So the bicycle itself can be seen as two major different things.
Yeah,
One, it could be an electric bike. The other side of it, it could be an exercise device.
true. So,
So my point is what if you wanted to wear the EXO to travel to somewhere, well then you wanted to exercise at the same time? Would that be something that you would do or not?
that's interesting. So, you know, if the Exo is more of an exercise device, and say, you've got this regime you like to do, and you want to add a little resistance to it, and you're going to do this in your hotel rooms. Maybe you don't know the hotels you're going to whether they're going to have a gym, or you don't want to use that kind of stuff. Why not? Why not? Why not? That again, I think that's goes back to Nora's thing. It's like that's a kind of personal preference. It's like
Mhm.
if you want to do that, knock yourself out.
Right.
My point is if you spin this on its head and see it from a consumer perspective, what if, right? I mean, I love to ride. So I love to ride and I
Right.
don't like to ride electric bikes just because I just like to ride and just feel my legs burning. However, if I wanted to use the bike and I wanted to go to the
Right.
store is probably about 10 miles away.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's a
I
good
don't
ride.
nec- I don't necessarily want to ride there all the time. I might just want to go to the store. But what if I don't have a car?
Right.
If I wear the EXO, I might be able to use this as a mobility device just to go to the store, so I can put something in a bag or something and wear it on my back.
Right.
But then I'm not using the energy as much. It's actually being transferred to the EXO. So then it becomes a device of it is still a mobility device, but for a different purpose, a consumer device.
I mean, you could kind of do that kind of situation where you're like, hey, I'm going to use this for functional type travel. I have a manual bike, but I'm going to put an Exo on, so I'm basically going to get myself an e-bike without having an e-bike. So yeah, you could do that. I mean, you could also probably maybe easier is just buy a little electric motor to go on your manual bike and set that up. as a separate attachment. But yes, it would be more fun to do it with an EXO. I agree.
Now try to bring both of those on a plane, and I don't think you're getting past
No,
security.
no.
So the reason I say this is
He's tried it. I
if
know he
you
has.
wa- if
Of
you
course.
wanna if you wanna take a bike on the plane, you've got to take the handlebars off. You've got to wrap it in cling wrap.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then you've got to take the forks off the front, wrap them in cling wrap. The wheel wrap in cling wrap. The frame is also wrapped, and any sharp implements are also wrapped as well.
I, I'm telling you, unless you've got a real specialized bike and you really want to have a bike, I mean, I'm especially if I'm traveling, I'm doing one or two choices. Like I'm renting a bike on the other side, or if I really want to get a bike, I'll go on Amazon, Walmart, and have one shipped to the hotel versus going through all the stuff in the airport. I mean, I get it. If you're talking about a $3,000 to $10,000 bike, it's some fancy carbon fiber or whatever vibranium bike. Yeah, okay, then it's worth the trouble. But a normal bike, no way.
So is that kind of getting back to the point of whether or not you'd bring an exoskeleton on an airplane,
It is.
right?
It is. It's like how specialized is it, right? It's like
Right,
you,
exactly.
we have
Yeah.
friends that wear exoskeletons
What I
because
was
they have
getting at, to be honest.
paralysis, and it's if you're wearing an exoskeleton for paralysis, a lot of those are $100,000 to $150,000.
Right.
Uh,
You're not gonna just ship that from Walmart
no,
to
you're not shipping that
when
from
you
Walmart.
land.
That's a whole different situation.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes back down to, is the juice worth the squeeze? Now, I do have to
Yeah.
say, I didn't do as internal research as you, Bill, and Matt have done into the technical expertise, but I did read a little bit on Reddit.
Yes.
And there have been positive reviews from people saying that they have been able to fly with an
Really?
exoskeleton pretty easily, which is good. But in this case, they were consumer
Right.
users. They were not utilizing the exoskeleton for medical purposes.
Right.
So all of them had the opportunity to doff the exoskeleton and either put it under the seat in front of them or put it in as their checked bag, their
Yeah.
checked luggage. So it does seem that the airlines make it pretty easy if it's for consumer mobility issues, so to speak.
Right.
But it's the medical exoskeletons that I think are a little bit more complicated
Right.
when you're taking those into consideration.
Well, and it's because I would say it's just because the person actually needs it to move around. There's
Right.
you're gonna have
It's
to. Yeah.
right. It's not as simple as saying, "Hey, just doff that and
Yeah.
throw it on your checked-in
Right. Right.
baggage." It
Yeah.
doesn't work that
Yeah,
easily.
that's right.
Now, I'd
Um,
be interested in knowing, especially like over where Matt is like, how does this play with trains? I bet your trains would be a lot easier, but I don't
oh
know for
yeah.
sure.
Now the beauty is with trains, the way they approach, yeah, they will be they are really housed a lot better for this type of stuff. So much better. The only thing it isn't is the underground.
Oh yeah.
Anybody who's had the experience of the underground, you don't get
Mhm.
on that train quick enough, it's gonna cut you in half.
Yeah, yeah. That is. So I lived in the Washington D.C. area for many years. That was one of the things that visitors did not understand until it happened to them. Is that the metro in Washington D.C. The doors on the train were not like elevator doors. When they close, and if you stick an arm or whatever in them, they do not
Yeah, it's
retract
taking
back.
it.
It's not an
Right.
elevator door. It will snap you in
Yeah,
there like a
it is
lobster.
gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, cool.
Well,
Well, this was a wonderful conversation. We'll have to do some more on traveling with exos and traveling with fun batteries and everything.
oh my goodness, yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah,
we still
absolutely.
have to do the risk of the month because I think there's a lot of stuff we need to touch in that area.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'm going to reach out to one of our friends and ask him what's his biggest risk that he comes across, and I'll surprise it for our next podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Awesome.
guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Nora.